What if I told you that by the year 2030, the world will face a 40% gap between the water we need and the water we actually have? This is not a dramatic prediction created to shock you. It is a scientifically established reality supported by decades of evidence. A future where water, once the most ordinary resource, becomes the most contested, the most valuable, and the most dangerous resource on the planet. Today's documentary takes you deep into the hidden layers of the global water crisis. We will uncover why this crisis is accelerating, how climate change, pollution, agriculture, and population growth are pushing the world toward disaster, how societies and economies will be reshaped by extreme shortages, and what humanity can still do to avoid a catastrophic collapse. This is not just an environmental problem, it is the next global emergency. We live on a planet that appears rich in water, a world covered in oceans, lakes, rivers, and ice caps. But this visual abundance is a beautiful lie. Less than 0.5% of the Earth's total water is fresh, clean, and accessible for human use. That tiny fraction sustains billions of people, global agriculture, manufacturing, and every ecosystem we depend on. Yet we act as though this water is endless. Taps run for minutes without thought. Millions of gallons leak from broken infrastructure daily. Industries pollute rivers with chemicals. And all the while, the most dangerous element of this crisis remains invisible. The massive amount of virtual water hidden inside everything we consume. This illusion of abundance is the silent engine of the crisis. Every product you eat, wear, or use contains an invisible water cost. This is called virtual water, and it is far more devastating than most people realize. Your morning cup of coffee takes around 140 liters of water to produce. A hamburger requires approximately 2,500 liters when you calculate the cattle's feed, processing, and production. A cotton t-shirt needs 2,700 liters of water, enough for one person to drink for more than 2 years. Even your smartphone required thousands of liters in manufacturing. We don't see this water. We don't feel it. But this hidden consumption is draining rivers, collapsing groundwater levels, and pushing ecosystems toward irreversible damage. Climate change is speeding up the crisis. Rising temperatures increase evaporation rates, drying up lakes and rivers faster than before. Rainfall patterns shift unpredictably. Some regions receive deadly floods, while others experience blistering droughts. Monsoon cycles now arrive too early or too late, too strong or too weak. Glaciers, which feed major rivers in Asia, South America, and Europe, are melting at a speed never recorded in human history. When glaciers disappear, the rivers they sustain collapse. And without those rivers, millions of people, countless farms, and entire cities will face unprecedented water shortages. Climate change is not just creating hotter summers, it is dismantling the world's water system. Population growth adds immense pressure to water supplies. By 2050, the global population will reach nearly 10 billion. The challenge is not just the number of people, but where they live. Most population growth is occurring in regions already facing water scarcity. Countries across South Asia, Africa, the Middle East, and northern China are struggling to provide clean water today, let alone in the future. More people means more food, more industries, more energy, and more wastewater. The world is expanding while its water supply is shrinking. Without drastic change, demand will overwhelm supply long before we reach 2050. Agriculture consumes around 70% of all freshwater used by humans. It is the thirstiest sector on the planet. Yet most of this water is used inefficiently. Traditional flood irrigation wastes enormous amounts through evaporation and runoff. Groundwater aquifers' natural underground water banks are being pumped at catastrophic rates. Some aquifers took thousands of years to form and are now being depleted in decades. Crops like rice, cotton, and sugarcane are grown in regions that cannot support them naturally. Agriculture must feed billions, but it is draining the very water needed to grow food. If farming doesn't change, the farms of today could become the deserts of tomorrow. Industrial pollution is turning fresh water into toxic waste. Factories dump untreated chemicals into rivers. Textile industries stain water with dyes. Pharmaceutical factories release compounds that disrupt ecosystems. Mining operations leak heavy metals like mercury and arsenic. Even household products like detergents and microplastics contaminate freshwater sources. Once water is polluted on this scale, it becomes nearly impossible to purify. Polluted water kills fish, destroys habitats, and creates long-term health risks for humans. Water scarcity isn't just about running out. It's about destroying what we already have. Food scarcity is the next domino to fall. A shortage of water leads to smaller harvests, declining yields, and rising food prices. Wheat, rice, corn, pulses, vegetables, everything depends on water. When water disappears, food insecurity spikes. Countries begin to rely on expensive imports. Poor nations face famine-like conditions. Global supply chains break down. A drought in one region can affect global prices instantly. Millions could slip into hunger, not because the world can't produce enough food, but because it doesn't have the water to grow it. Water scarcity deepens social inequality. Wealthier families can buy bottled water, filtration systems, and private supplies. Poor communities cannot. In many countries, women and children walk miles daily to collect water from unsafe sources. These journeys expose them to health risks, wild animals, harassment, and violence. Children miss school. Families lose income. Diseases spread through contaminated water. Water scarcity is not just an environmental issue, it is a human rights crisis. As water becomes scarce, people move in search of survival. Entire villages migrate. Farmers abandon land that can no longer produce crops. Cities receive waves of climate refugees, straining infrastructure and services. Experts estimate that over 700 million people could be displaced by water scarcity by 2050. Such massive displacement will reshape economies, cultures, and borders. These are not storms or earthquakes. They are slow-moving disasters created by human behavior. Water is becoming the next geopolitical flashpoint. Shared rivers have the power to unite nations or push them toward conflict. The Nile, the Indus, the Mekong, the Euphrates, and countless others are sources of tension. Nations upstream build dams. Nations downstream accuse them of stealing water. Countries like China, India, Pakistan, Ethiopia, Egypt, Turkey, and many more face growing pressure over shared rivers. Water will become the new oil, and unlike oil, there is no replacement for water. A world without cooperation risks stepping into an era of water wars. Despite the crisis, hope exists in innovation. Desalination can convert seawater into drinking water. However, it is expensive and energy intensive. Still, with renewable energy, it may become more sustainable. Wastewater recycling is another game-changing solution. Countries like Singapore and Australia recycle wastewater into drinking quality water. Smart agriculture using drip irrigation, precision farming, and drought-resistant seeds can drastically reduce consumption. AI-based water management systems can predict shortages and optimize usage. These solutions are not dreams, they exist today. Individuals also play a role. Shorter showers, fixing leaks, recycling water, using efficient appliances, and supporting responsible companies all contribute to reducing pressure on freshwater resources. Every drop saved matters. Governments must take action now. Stronger laws to prevent pollution. Modern infrastructure to reduce leakage. Responsible management of groundwater. Fair distribution of water resources. International cooperation over shared rivers. Without political will, even the best solutions will fail. Research and innovation must continue. Atmospheric water generators can pull water from air. Fog-catching nets can harvest water in dry regions. Solar-powered desalination systems can provide sustainable solutions. These technologies could transform water-scarce regions into secure and thriving communities. If humanity fails to act, cities will run dry, farms will collapse, economies will fall, and nations will fragment under pressure. Water will become more valuable than gold. It will become the currency of survival. But if we act now with innovation, cooperation, and urgency, we can protect the future. The crisis is real. The danger is growing, but the solution is still in our hands. If this documentary has opened your eyes to the truth behind the global water crisis, make sure to like this video, share it with others, and subscribe for more deep global stories. Awareness is the first step toward action. This video is for educational and informational purposes only. All statistics and references are based on publicly available research. This content does not offer political, environmental, or legal advice and does not target any country or organization. Viewers should verify all information independently.